Welcome. I'm glad that you're all here tonight. So thank you very much, Carlos, for the introduction. And tonight I'm going to be talking a little bit about all the things that are happening at the school. So for those of you that were at the October meeting, I just was going to do a little bit of a recap in case anybody missed the meeting. So just so we know, we talked a lot about at the meeting metacognition, and we talked about the idea between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset, and that we had to always be thinking about change and moving forward. We talked about asking questions about why, and we talked about really the question of, is it really important in the year 2019 to memorize so many things when the students have access to Google and other resources, and they can access it much faster than any of us can? So we really need to evaluate where do we need to learn and how do we need to be looking at education today. We also talked about when they graduate, we have no idea what kind of jobs they have, especially if you have children in the lower school. We have no idea what kind of degrees they'll go for college to get, and we have no idea what kind of job they'll actually have. So we have to be thinking in terms of the future as we prepare them. And again, we talked about the core curriculum. It delivers the existing knowledge that's out there now, but we really need to be preparing them for the unknown and for all the things that are to come. And we can't do that by just using the same textbooks and the same techniques that we used when you and I were in high school and in elementary school. Times have changed so much that we have to be really reflective on that, and we have to understand what I said a minute ago. Google is a second away for them, and they're much faster. They know how to access things better than we do. They know how to find anything to do on YouTube and give them an instant video of how to solve something. There's so many apps out there on their phones that they can get information. They can do their math homework on an app. They can check their math homework on an app. They can check their science homework on an app. They know how to do this. Many of us don't even know how to do it, but they already know how to do it. They're already using it. So we need to be mindful of that when we think about how are we going to educate students for the future. I have this in my office, and I show this picture at every single presentation, so if you come, you'll see it all the time. But really, it's about strong teachers don't teach content. Google has the content that they need. Strong teaching connects students and learning in ways that inspire kids to learn more and strive for greatness. And this is what we need to be really thinking about, because it is the relationship between the teachers and the students that allows students to really wonder wildly about learning and want to be at school. This is really important because the world has changed so much where we no longer can open the textbook, answer the questions at the back of the textbook, and turn in the questions. That's not helping students of today or tomorrow. All right, so change is ahead. We've already started looking at a lot of really interesting things. We've started doing things already. So tonight I'm going to share with you a little bit about what's happening. Okay, so we did these forums. I don't know if some of you I recognize from some of the forums, but at the forums I had so many parents say, well, I have 4 children, and so I've saved all the work so that my youngest child doesn't have to work that hard. Because I guarantee that when they're in the 3rd grade, they're going to get the same project that my other 3 children got. And I thought, oh my gosh, I can't even believe I'm hearing this. And then everybody else confirmed it in the meeting, and I'm like, are you kidding me? And so I went back to all the division directors and I said, okay, you cannot do the same project every year. Why would anybody think that this is acceptable? It is not acceptable. There's no way we should be doing the same thing from 10 years later and having the same exact project so that you can pull out your old poster board from your last child that was in lower school or middle school. So I've talked to everybody about we can no longer do that. And we need to have higher expectations of our students. Middle school students shouldn't be using poster board. Okay, they should be making videos. They can make their own YouTube videos. They can do all kinds of things. We have to set the bar higher. And we shouldn't be thinking, oh, I'm going to save this presentation because that way my youngest child life will be so much easier. It's not going to be anymore because I'm changing all that. So throw all that stuff. So I want to thank the parents that brought it to my attention because I had no idea. But I was really upset about it for weeks. Okay, so we can no longer do the things the way we've done them. And we can't have this attitude that we've always done it this way. And kids have gotten into really good colleges. And students have graduated from here and they've done really well. That's all true. And that's all true for the times that they graduated, the years they graduated, and where they've gone. But as we look forward, we can't have that same mentality because the world around us is changing so quickly. So we no longer can say that the way we've done it is great. And we can no longer say that in our classrooms, and we can no longer expect that as parents or as school administrators or teachers. even if it's worked for the last 70 plus years here, because it's not going to work any longer. And what's going to happen is they're going to get off to college and they're not going to be able to work collaboratively. They're not going to be confident enough to shout out crazy answers, and even if they're wrong, they're not going to have that level of confidence because they didn't learn it here. And this is the time that you learn how to build your confidence and create and collaborate. So what I'm really talking about is the courage, and it's the courage to change. So it's not only the courage for our teachers, but it's the courage for you as parents, because parents also have to change. We have to change the way we think, and we have to change the way we talk to our students. You know, I had a parent in my office the other day whose student was in trouble, and she said, I don't know why, but I can't stop saying, did you get an 80? She said, I just can't stop saying it. I can't stop saying, did you get an 80? Because I want him to make honor roll. And we talked about how important is this? Because the pressure of honor roll is costing this child some choices that are poor. And so she was saying, look, I didn't make honor roll. She was an alum too. I never made honor roll. I don't know why I'm doing it. And so we talked about some of the things parents have to change as well. And we have to have the courage as parents to be able to accept change and to expect different things from our kids. And really what the goal would be is that they're good people first and foremost. So I always talk about change, and the organizations that kind of stick to their, this is the way I do it, I'm not going to change. We've done a good job for 70 years. We've put kids in really high-level colleges. We've turned out okay because we're graduates of the school. Why would we change anything? So I have just a few examples, because the school, whether we like to think of it as a business or not, it is. We're in the business of educating kids, and we have to take that very seriously. So instead of defending the position, we have to have the courage to think bigger and understand why we have to change. So I think about records. How many of us had records? Okay. How many of your children have records? Okay, none of them. Why? Because iTunes came out. Okay, so iTunes took over the industry of, there are some people that still have vinyl, but iTunes came out and it took over the industry within a minute. Recording artists didn't know what to do because they had to figure out how they could make money now that they weren't selling their albums. This is a picture of a mall in the United States. This is what's happening to malls across the United States of America because Amazon came in. And malls didn't change fast enough. They didn't, the big anchor stores didn't have online businesses. Amazon came in and took over. So many of the malls are going out of business there. This is another one. Taxi cab service. They have to buy their medallions. It costs a fortune to have a medallion. The highest rate of suicides right now in the United States is from taxi cab drivers because Uber came in and people prefer Uber. And then Lyft came in. So now there's double competition because the taxis didn't change the way they did business. And Uber was marketing to what people wanted today, and it still is. So there's another business that's had trouble. Blockbuster. You know why they didn't change their business? Because 15% of their business was from late fees. And they thought, we're making money on these late fees, so we're going to keep the business just the way we had it. And then what happened? Netflix. Everybody uses Netflix, right? I will say there's one lady in Bend, Oregon, who still has her Blockbuster open. And the reason why her Blockbuster's open is she said, yes, I'm going to do something differently. So what she did is she said, I'm only going to rent the old classics. And that's the only reason she's in business. She's the last Blockbuster in business because she changed her strategy. Colleges and universities. The traditional colleges and universities are now competing with virtual online colleges. High schools have virtual classes. We're going to offer virtual classes in the fall. So everybody is shifting and changing with the needs. So again, it's all about courage. So as we sit here and we think about our kids of tomorrow and what they're going to do, we have to have this courage as parents to accept change and work with it and change some of our ways that we think to help our kids make it through and be really successful human beings. Best Buy is a different example. So Best Buy was really in trouble. And they said, okay, we have to think about this. Do we want to go out of business like everybody else, or do we think about what we're going to do? So they, instead of saying we're doing great and being one of the people that are closing all their businesses, they came up with 3 strategies. First and foremost, they focused on their people, their employees. That was their #1 strategy, that they're going to train their employees differently to be customer service oriented and give benefits to their employees so that they would want to work there. They turned their weaknesses into strengths. They knew that if you buy things online, you can't touch it, you can't feel it, you can't test it out. So they turned their business into a place you could touch things, feel things, test it out, take it home, return it easily. And then they build relationships with their community by they started this thing called the Geek Squad, and they come for free to your house for 90-minute appointments to help you if you have any technology problem at home. So they changed their whole business strategy in order to compete with Amazon, and they're still really thriving because they looked at what's happening in the world and how do we change. Same with that lady in Bend, Oregon, who just started doing her old movies because that's working. So if we think about it here at Escuela Americana, this is a traditional classroom. This is right now. So even though I talk about this is not how it should be, it still is. So it takes a little while for change. This picture was taken last week. So I've talked about, like, this is not how classrooms, this is an old-fashioned classroom setup where you're sitting in rows, teacher in the front of the room. And so we really have to think differently. We have to change our strategy about how we're dealing with the kids that we have today. I got this picture. This is from Beaver Academy in Boston. But they changed their strategy because if you think about how your kids learn and work at home, they're not sitting at a desk. They're probably not even sitting at your dining room table. They're probably on their beds, they're probably on the floor, they're probably watching TV, listening to, talking on their phone, doing all kinds of things at the same time. So thinking differently about how kids learn, how they spend their time learning. This could be in a classroom, this could be in the library, it could be anywhere. This is a setup where you see you have students sitting in whatever format works best for them. So we're really talking at the school now, and we're ordering things right now so that classrooms can be set up like this. So for the students, some students like to work at tables, some students like to work on a table or a chair, and some students are going to work in small groups. We have to allow them to do that because we know from research that this is how students are learning today. So we need to provide that for them. That sets the environment for learning. And you see this picture I like because there's no teacher in the front of the room. Students are working at different things. They're all working. There's no rows. They're working on the whiteboard. They're on their computers. They're just working. That's the goal. You don't need a teacher giving a lecture. There's time for lecture and there's time for student work. And then building spaces. And we're working on the library. I know the library got redone last summer, but we're also looking at how do we make the library a space where teachers want to work there so that kids and teachers can collaborate all the time. And they don't have to go to a specific classroom, but they're available and it's comfortable for adults to work in it as well. Again, just another picture of the things that we're looking at for all the classrooms. So we have to dream big and we have to make things happen. So we can talk about it or we can do it. So a lot of people just talk and they don't do anything. So that is not me. So I am seriously someone who's a doer. So I talk about it and I'm like, okay, we're doing it tomorrow, which makes everybody very upset. But I can't help it. That's because if we wait any longer, we're just going to continue to wait. And if we talk about it, and we have committees about it, and we think about it, and then next year it's on our budget for 2 years from now, it's not happening. So we have to dream big, but then we have to really do it. So we are really doing it right now. We are ordering the furniture, we're thinking about our space, we're developing all of our plans and our strategic plan that we're going to be working on this May. Everything is about making it happen now. We need to teach differently than even a few years ago. So this is one of the things that we're doing. We just coordinated with Monica Herrera University, and we're going to start a whole training of design thinking. Because when I talked to the teachers here, one of the first things that they said to me was, I love this idea, but I don't know how to do it. Or I love this idea, but I graduated from college 20 years ago. I can't remember I don't know any of this stuff. So, and they're right. They want to learn, but you have to be trained. And professional development isn't a one person comes for one day, they leave, and then you're supposed to be a guru on everything that person told you that day. It's not even possible. So what we did is we contracted with Monica Herrera for the next 18 months. So they start this month. And we're starting with all of our full-time faculty, and we're all going to be working in groups, being trained on how to use design thinking in your classroom, whether you're pre-K, 7th grade, 12th grade, it doesn't matter whether you're teaching math, whether you're teaching science, design thinking applies. Doesn't mean you're doing design thinking every single day, but it means it's an approach to learning that's different from traditional teaching. So this spring, everybody will be trained on what design thinking is. And then we'll start the next group of people trained, which are staff and the rest of the faculty that didn't get trained. But next year, they're going to come again, and they're going to run more groups, and then they're going to provide individual mentors to our teachers. so that they have an individual mentor from the university that is trained on design thinking to help you with your lesson planning, to sit in your class, to really work with you so that you're getting the total professional development process that helps you feel comfortable with doing design thinking as an approach in your classroom, so that we can move towards this for an entire school process. Because this is the process where we help kids learn how to think. This is when you switch over from that rote memorization to thinking, what I call metacognition. And this is just an example of design thinking in progress, where every possible idea is good until it isn't. And the team works it out themselves. So you can say anything you want, even if everybody knows your idea is crazy. It's okay. Everything goes up. And then the team works through it to come up with the best possible solutions to whatever the problem is that they're dealing with. So this is just a good example of what it would look like in the stages of this. Again, using technology. Doesn't mean that every classroom has to have this technology, but we need to expose our kids, because when they leave here and they go to other schools, they are going to be using artificial technology, they are going to be using 3D technology, so they have to have some level of exposure while they're here. And our tech department's looking into all this right now so that we can get some of this. So it's really about teaching kids how to think about thinking. And that is very different from study this because it's on the test so that you can pass the test so that you can forget it the next day. That's a very different philosophy. And that's really a lot what's happening. They study, they memorize, then they drop it because they got to study for the next thing and they have to memorize that. So they're not containing it in their brain. Really, we're talking about grit. Okay, so teaching kids what grit means. And grit means you're really working it through no matter what. Working hard, you're persevering, you're making it happen, even when it's really hard and you don't want to do it. It's not, because so many teachers tell me that students will say to them, just tell me what's on the test, miss. I don't care about all this. I just need to pass the test so I can make honor roll, because my mother will then take my PlayStation away. That's what they're saying. That's why I say parents need to be educated too, because they tell me all kinds of things in my office. Even today, they were telling me all the complaints about the new possible honor roll, because how that could affect their freedom. So grit and resilience. So we're really teaching resilience, and this is where the parent piece comes in, because if we're saying that you can never get a bad grade, or you can't fail at something, or you always have to make honor roll, we're telling them that there's never a chance to fail. We want them to fail here. We want them to fail while they're in our middle school, our high school, our lower school, so that we can pick them back up and tell them how great they are and get them going again. And you can support them as well, because when they get off to college and they fail, nobody cares except you when they call you, but nobody else. So we have to teach the resilience here so they can believe in themselves, they can maybe bomb at something and then pick themselves up. If they're working in a group in design thinking and their project fails at the end, they can say, okay, why did it fail? How do we fix it? Okay, how do we do it again to make it better and make it work? They need to have that skill, and that's the resilience and grit skill that we have to start in as early as pre-K. We have to start that, so that's embedded in them. So that way when they get off to school, they know that there's always a way to fix something. You can be resilient. So this is what we need to do as a community. So we have to be on board with this, not memorizing for the test stuff. We have to be on board that we want them to wonder, and we want them to think creatively and be able to just come up with crazy answers and think. We really want them to think. I need you to support that the honor roll is changing. That we're not going to celebrate honor roll every quarter so it can be posted on WhatsApp and you can be so proud. It's great, but it's not great all the time. And it's especially not great when your kid doesn't make it. And there's a lot of them that don't. And I even had a young man in my office today that said, I kind of like this new honor roll because now I don't have to sit through and watch everybody every quarter. So that's the perspective of someone who didn't make honor repeatedly. It's important to be good and to make good grades. I'm not minimizing that. We still need students to strive and to really do well, and we'll celebrate them at the end of the year. We'll celebrate them at the end of the year. We want them to do really well. We just need to change from this process of where we have so many students feeling the pressure to cheat to make honor roll. That's what has to go away. So we need to support the board is really working closely with me about this and really been so supportive of all the things and moving it quickly, not saying, oh no, let's wait about it, let's think about it. So I encourage you to support the board too, because they've really been supportive of helping things happen quickly, and I need that support as well. So have faith that the people on the board are trying really hard to support me and make changes, and sometimes it's not easy to have that faith, but I'm asking you to please have that faith because so far it's really working well. And the continuity is very helpful for me to make things happen and continue the growth and movement as fast as we can. And then consider wellness as a big picture. So many students here are suffering from anxiety and panic attacks. Lower school students, middle school, upper school, consider this when you're thinking about what you talk to your students about. Have conversations about honor roll. Have conversations about why it's changing, why it's important to be a good person versus, I had 4 7th grade boys in my office after school today, and one said, well, now it's gonna be so hard for me to make honor roll. Can we negotiate? And I said, well, we can negotiate. So what do you think we should do? And he said, well, does it have to be 88? Because, I'll have no life. This is what he said. And then another boy said, well, I think it's pretty good, but maybe we could make it 86. And I said, well, we can negotiate that because it's not written in stone yet, but we can talk about it, but it has to be higher than 80. And it has to be okay with, and you have to talk to your parents that it's okay if you don't make it because you're a good person, you behave well, and you're doing good things at school. And those are the conversations. I'm having those all the time with kids. But you can have those too in your homes, that this is about being good people and doing good things in the world and doing your very best. And sometimes you're going to achieve highly and sometimes you're not, and that's okay. Because it's going to be okay in the end. Talking about sleep with them. So many of them don't sleep. They're up all night playing their games. They're up all night doing homework. This is one of the reasons we're looking at homework, about how we're going to handle homework next year. And then what do we need to do? So in terms of the school, we're training our teachers. We're doing the design thinking training. We have another trainer coming in named Jane Pollock. She wrote a book, Changing Student Learning One Teacher at a Time. She's going to be working with us in April and then again in August. So we're going to do ongoing training with her. And then we're doing differentiated instruction. We had many teachers fly out to Fort Worth, Texas a few weeks ago to start the process, and we're going to continue that too, so that we're really focused on rethinking our assessment and that every test doesn't have to be exactly the same. Kids learn differently. Some kids are really slow working on tests. Some kids are fast. If you have a math test with 30 questions and you have a kid that moves at a pace of a snail, he can do 10 because you're going to know if he knows the content in 10 as well as 30. So you have to know who your students are, and then you can adjust accordingly. It is fair to do that based on the students you have in your classroom. And we need to keep informing parents, telling them why we're doing things, why we're making changes, why we want to make changes, and why it's so important for you to talk to your students too, because it's a change sometimes in our parents' mindset, and we need you to be on board with that. And then be open to the missteps, because they're going to have some. And that's okay. We want them to have their missteps while they're here. It's easier to recover and to find your resilience and grit and be loved in a community that's safe than it is when they leave here. So we want parents to be okay with that as well. So that on the horizon, if you didn't see my newsletter, the things that are happening is we have hired a new early education director, so that's pre-K through 2nd grade. She starts in July, and so she's going to work just with the early education group. We're aligning our curriculum. Mrs. Lima is leading a curriculum program for us for next year. So curriculum will be aligned from grades pre-K through 12. This is a huge project. It takes 3 years, and Christina has agreed to lead the charge on that, so I'm really appreciative of that. And that's why she's going to do just grades 3 through 5 next year. Design thinking is happening, changes in the honor roll. We're still celebrating honor roll, but at the end of the year, we've changed the criteria a little bit. Not set in stone. I'm negotiating with all the students. I got high school students negotiating with me too. And that's okay. I'm glad. I'm glad that they feel comfortable enough to email me their complaints. And then I email them back and say, come see me and we'll talk about it. And today I had middle school in there telling me why they thought we should change it. I'm open to that. We can change it a little bit. I said, I'm not going back to 80, but I'm willing to meet you somewhere. Where do you want to meet? So we're going to do that. So you'll see it change a little bit more. We have the Student Success Program, which is the new program to help kids with learning differences. And so the good thing about that next year is it doesn't cost anything. So now families that have paid a fortune to get this extra service, they don't have to. So it's really exciting because we've hired a new person to lead the program. We've got a lot of staff working in it. We're training staff. We're training our current teachers. And the new gentleman who will be the director of this will train all the teachers so that eventually all the teachers understand best practices for kids who learn differently. We're going to start fundraising. I say this every meeting just so that you're ready. So that when I come to you and say we're fundraising, you're like, yes, I can't wait to give you some money. Student leadership, we have someone in the upper school hired next year to just run student leadership programs and do some counseling as well, so we can really focus on helping the older kids really learn what leadership skills are about. One Schoolhouse is the program that we're going to use for virtual online classes for 11th and 12th graders next year. So if you want to look that up, you can see it online. It's really a highly academic program. So this serves our highest academic achievers, and there is a little bit of a cost associated with that. But for a student that really wants or is passionate about a course that we don't offer and we're never going to offer, this is an opportunity to take that class and receive credit for it. Athletic Scholars in Spirit we're working on. We have our first Athletic Spirit Day coming up. I think it's the 26th. Yeah, 26th. And so you're welcome to come. It's going to be at 2 o'clock in the gym. And the idea is that all of our school attends the game, cheer on the students that are playing, and parents are welcome to come too. We're starting to say, we want to show kids that it's fun to come to a game, that you can have a good time and enjoy it. And if we like this idea, we're going to keep it going through next year as well. And then we've added into the honor roll system, a student who plays sports the entire year will receive an honor if their grades are high as well. We're building community events, the professional development I talked about, and then the parent education. So this also came up at the forums. So many parents said, can't you make us come? Okay, we can make you come. It would be great if we didn't have to make you come, but apparently nobody comes. So what we've decided is there are some things that are really important, and sometimes parents need a little push to show up. And so next year, based on the forums and based on listening to a lot of parents, we're going to offer 8 forums, and you have to attend at least 4. And we're going to take attendance, and we need you to attend that. They will not be boring, I promise, because I understand you don't want to sit at a boring thing. But we want to find topics that are really important for your students and things that you need to know. There's so many things out there that we don't know because we're not exposed to them, or things that are happening. So we're going to find really appropriate topics for the different grade levels and offer them so that when you do come, it's something that you're going to learn about that could help you. So we'll have that organized for starting in the fall. So those are the things that are happening right now. There's more to come, but that's what we started with. And so really it's all about vision. It's about vision of there's great things that can happen here if we all work together and we support the kids and we support the teachers and we support the board and we support everybody as a community. There's so many wonderful things going on here. There's so many wonderful things that have been happening here for years that this is a perfect opportunity just to add these new things in to make it even better with all of us working together. And that's what I'm looking at for our future. So those are the things we're working on. I'm going to say again, my door is open. I've met with so many of you. I've enjoyed that. And I've met with so many kids. If you want to send your kids to see me, that's fine too. But if you have any questions or concerns or there's something you don't like, I'm happy to hear anything. Just let me know, and I'm happy to set up an appointment and talk with you. So I appreciate your support, and I'm looking forward to, if I haven't met you, meeting you and your sons and daughters. So thank you.